Hello. We are back again for part two of this topic. So this is Black Mental Health Matters, okay? And so the topic on the 27th was around slavery, racism, and colonialism. And so we wanted to talk a little bit more about the education piece. We touched on it the last time, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper into it to talk about the implications of education and around how colonialism and slavery and racism have impacted just our community in terms of broad education, not just K through 12, but even beyond that. So one of the questions, actually, Dr. Washington sent one of the questions before that. Let's do introductions. We're going to do brief introductions just for the sake of time. I'm not going to read the bios. We can just share, whatever you want to share about yourself, and then we'll go from there, okay? All right, so I'm Dr. Marcia Harris, and I'm owner of Harris and Associates Psychological Services. I specialize in assessments of children and adolescents for determining special education and also for mental health disorders. I have a background in forensic assessments, research in clinical settings, and I teach at Northern Virginia Community College. Dr. Boudreau.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on where you are in the world. I'm Dr. Andrea Boudreau. I'm a medical psychologist. I specialize in mental health integration into the physical space and understanding how mental and behavioral health impacts your physical well-being. It's great to be with you today.
Yes. Dr. Bruce Golding.
Yes, hello, greetings from England. My name's Dr. Bruce Golding. I'm a special educational needs coordinator. I've got a background with working with children that had been excluded from school. And I also do psychometric testing, and I'm a mental health first aider. So I've got the community side where I'm trying to help people to become mental health first aiders. And I'm also a suicide first aid tutor as well. So it's great to be with you.
Yes. Dr. Washington, we're just doing introductions, brief introductions right now. We're not reading the bios just for the sake of time. So if you just want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, greetings. I am Dr. Kevin Washington, also known as Mwata Kairi. I am the founder of Ubuntu Psychotherapy. And so I practice, of course, African-centered therapy because we recognize that there is an issue with utilizing the oppressive form of mental health that may further exacerbate our mental illness. And so we challenge the system of understanding how to be whole, healed, and healthy. And so we use traditional constructs for understanding humanity. So that is the brief piece. I'm also an associate professor at Grambling State University in Grambling, Louisiana. I am the chair of the Psychology Sociology Department. And that's about it.
Awesome. All right. So what I was saying a little earlier, that we're just revisiting the topic that we discussed on March 27th around slavery, racism, and colonialism. And Dr. Washington, you had a question that you sent, and I just wanted to start with that. But we also wanted to give this opportunity for viewers to ask questions because they really didn't get a chance to do that. And because this topic is so heavy and there's so much to discuss, we didn't get a chance for viewers. So viewers, chime in if you have questions. Just send it in the chat, and then I will read them. So one of the questions, Dr. Washington, you had asked is, what are the psychological implications of colonialism on the minds of Black African people? What is our role in decolonizing the Black African mind, the educational curriculum? And so there's a lot to say about this. So if you want to start off, and then whoever wants to
That's cool. I mean, these are the experts. I'm just simply throwing some stuff out there.
Right.
And we see what sticks. The reality is that we understand that pedagogy, or the construct or the concept that are utilized in education, are designed to proselytize one into a mode of thinking, because the content that is determined to be consistent or important for the curriculum is tied to culture. And so we know then that whoever tells the narrative, and we heard it several times about the lion story, and whenever the hunter tells a story to be in the favor of him, and the lion tells a story to be in favor of the lion, that always the storyline is told to benefit the one that's telling the narrative. And so European history is designed to create a narrative that puts them in the catbird seat. For example, the discourse around Christianity and Jesus is only 6,000 years. And we look at several a billion years of human existence. The Roman Empire is so small, minuscule when we look at the totality, but we base our system of education on the Greco-Roman construct of education, the Platonic idea of the symposium, so forth and so on. So the reality is that it is designed to promote European superiority, and everyone else is deemed to be inferior. And I think then we have a fundamental role to challenge that. That is to look at what Dr. Asante and others say, that put ourselves at the center of the narrative, the discourse, and then tell the story from that perspective. It doesn't mean that one is replacing white nationalism for the sake of African-centered thought. It means that one is having a corrective narrative where they have agency as well as everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Bruce Golding, you had mentioned something the last time resonated with me, is the lens in which our community has to look through in terms of mainstream culture. And can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yes, I definitely resonate with what Dr. Washington is saying. Mm-hmm. I think I've been teaching over 13 years, and both mainstream and special education, many of the students felt so disconnected from what they were learning. They didn't see themselves in the science or everything, geography, everything that they were learning. So there was that disconnection. And I think there's always that question with many of them asking, who am I and where am I from? And that has made me, even when I think about education, the education system and other systems, and how these systems are designed with us not involved in that. So, there's a lot of unions and groups that are getting together to look at decolonizing the curriculum and looking at how can we, reflect the honesty, the real stories. And I think even after hearing Dr. Washington before talking about colonization and the brutality, the savagery, the slavery, all of those things that took place, sometimes you can just read the words, or in books, this country was colonized, and then you move on to the next sentence. But when you dig deep, into what the processes of colonization were, how were people treated, how were people made to be, dehumanization of Black and African people. And so I think it's complex, but there's a lot, even when we think about the education system, there's a lot that needs to be undone. Yeah. And the challenge in the UK is, as an educator and looking into how do we get more, Black people, Black teachers. Yeah. The statistics are very difficult because after 5 years, Black teachers are leaving the profession of teaching.
Yeah.
So there's this big gap of what are they actually experiencing. So even before they start, when they enroll on courses, many of them don't get admitted onto the teaching courses. Right. The ones that do, when it comes to qualifying to be a teacher, you have to pass your NQT year, and that's in a school. So I've spoken to teachers who said, I've had a difficult time. They failed me on my NQT year. So, and then we look at the statistics. There's not enough Black teachers. I'd say there's about 10,000 male and female Black teachers in schools in the UK. And so, that's one of the challenges as well. So, and then I know for myself as a teacher, I would make that effort to see everybody in that room and make sure that culture was discussed, identity, and being a source for those young people. So lunchtimes, I would always have the children in my room telling me about what's going on. I just used to bring my lunch and I'd have it in my room and that's what sort of inspired me into sort of thinking, what happens to these children when they get excluded?
Yeah.
So you'd see many teachers feeling like, great, that child's gone now. But I used to think, well, what journey? Where are they going? And I think that has encouraged me to look deeper into the education system. And I keep saying system because I'm seeing that there's all of these systems around us that we have to teach our young people how to navigate through these systems.
Right.
So
absolutely. And I know that, go ahead, Dr. Boudreaux, I was going to provide.
And I'll just speak from the healthcare system and how physicians and nurses are educated to understand how our symptoms present. On the 27th, we talked about the challenges I had with some of the psychological and psychosocial assessments that we do. But when I think about, we're here in the States, we're about to recognize Black Maternal Health Week, and just what it means and why there are so many more Black women dying in childbirth, in and around childbirth, is because our system, our healthcare system, has not been trained to understand. So pain management is not recognized. Comorbidities are not understood. And the providers are not given the education to understand the differences in how we present. And so when you're not in the textbook, you're not in the, we just are missing from that piece of education as well. And the disparities continue to grow.
Absolutely.
So it's a wide array. It's not just in grade school or grammar school. We see it all throughout our work. I can talk, I'm not an attorney. I tell people I play one on TV, but it's the same thing in the law, what's happening. And so when people are not educated to understand culture